Welcome back to another episode of the Bigger Than Me podcast. Here is your host, Aaron P.
As many of you know, I am a huge fan of Corner Gas. I've spoken with Brent Butt, Lauren Cardinal, and now I'm speaking with the comedic genius who played Wanda. We explore her background, passion for acting, the journey onto the set of Corner Gas, and the impact that it had. My guest today is Nancy Robertson. Nancy, I have been looking forward to this interview. I have watched Corner Gas so many times. I'm such a huge fan of the show. It had such a big impact on me growing up. Would you mind briefly introducing yourself for listeners who might not be acquainted with your amazing work?
Oh, my name is Nancy Robertson. I played Wanda on Corner Gas for 6 seasons and do other shows and just abroad. Just abroad.
Fantastic. Would you mind telling me what got you interested or passionate about acting?
It just kind of, sorry, I'm drinking tea. So, it was just something I always wanted to do. I was always horsing around growing up, and I grew up with my older sister and brother were really funny, or are, and my dad was a riot. And, we were just always making plays and doing things. And I could not think of anything else I wanted to do, but it just seemed like it was impossible to do. But when I graduated high school, I thought, all right. So I went to a secretary class. I went, no, this isn't going to do. I'm not going to do this. And not that there's anything wrong with that. And I just knew I wanted to make my own way. So it just took a while. And then I went to theater school and just finally took a leap. I worked for the cable company for a while, and then I said, nope, can't do this. And I left and just jumped in and got really fortunate that I started landing work, because it's such a hard business to do that. And there's always people way more talented and that are, beside you, ahead of you, behind you. And so sometimes there's no rhyme or reason why something works out. And I'm just grateful that so far, so good.
Where do you think the authentic, passionate energy comes from for you? Because that seems to be like a very unique trait for you, that you bring this great energy.
Oh, well, that's nice. I don't know. I that's hard for me to say. I don't know, because when it's something that I say that that's attributed to yourself, you kind of you don't know anything different. So I don't know.
But you must have met people over the years who are very bland, very vanilla, very check the box. Life is so, and you don't bring that energy to your work professionally, but just in conversations, you just don't have that type of energy. You seem high-spirited and positive.
I'm kind of extreme. I can be very up and positive and full of energy when called for, and but I can also be pretty low key and reserved at the same time too. So I think it's like everybody. Just like if you meet people that you may think are kind of bland or whatever, they're probably not. It's just the circumstances maybe that you meet somebody in, and maybe in their own private world, they're a blast. So I don't know. I'm just saying I don't know a lot.
It's a very thoughtful I don't know, though. There's a lot of information tied in with it. When did you start to find your path? When did you start to realize how you were going to make your way in acting?
I don't think I ever knew how I was going to make my way. The only thing that I knew was that if I didn't keep moving at it, it wasn't going to happen. And there were lots of times where you're thinking, well, I got to give it up. I've sold my bike. I've done all these kind of things, trying to make my way and feed myself while doing this. It's kind of the same old story, but it's true. I mean, it's feast or famine in this industry, and most of it is famine. And so there's a lot of times, you just feel like this just isn't going to happen. I'm not going to get this. And it's tough. And like I said, the most incredible actors and performers are ones that we'll never know. And because it's just so difficult. But I just knew that I just couldn't think of anything else I would do. And I think that's one of the key things.
Was there a moment that it clicked?
That I got work, or
anything where you realized that this is it and there's nothing else for you? Was there a moment when you were on stage or anything?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think it started when I was going to theater school, and we would do, I don't know what they called it. We would have plays and showcases in the theater, and they went really well. I had a lot of fun with them, and I thought, okay, maybe maybe I can get by on this. So it was a little bit of a smattering of approval that came about, and that made me feel that maybe I was headed in the right direction. But you see, the thing is too, is that you're never going to be everybody's taste, So, but I knew from the response in the audience, from the first showcases and stuff that I had done, that it felt really great, and I got some approval from that, and that I think that probably sealed it. Because honest to God, I didn't know what I would do without it. I honestly didn't know what I would do with my life.
That's really good to hear, because I think some people can feel lost, and then other people seem to find exactly where they're supposed to be and exactly what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think so, because the only way I can kind of, it's not necessarily based on my ability, but I've been able to feed myself. And that's a big deal in this thing. So I haven't had to go elsewhere for sustenance. And that's, it's, I'm just really, really fortunate. And I know that. So
is there a type of character that you enjoyed playing in those early days? A dark character, a happy character? Is there something that stood out to you about the people that you were playing?
I kind of like, I always like a little bit of dark in a comedy, in a way, that there's something kind of underlying a little bit. And then when I did the series Hiccups years ago, I played such a happy character where she basically, I always figured if she was one of those people like my dad, that he woke up with this, a great expectation for the day and happy and whistling. And all it took was somebody just to put a damper on it that would just ruin it. So, but your first place to jump off is happy. And so it was fun playing somebody like that too. So, but when she, when somebody made her unhappy, she would go dark as well. So I like a little bit of everything. I like dark as much as I like light. I don't know whether it's just, I don't know. I kind of I don't go too introspective into it either, because sometimes it's just, you don't even know where you're going with something, and it just kind of takes you, right. Depending on who you're acting opposite from, and who's directing, and the writing, and then just add a splash of what you bring to it. It's important that you do. That's our job, to bring in our own
flavor.
Yeah.
You have a long history with Fred Ewanchuk. Would you mind taking us all the way back to The Art of Parking?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I did. I used to do Vancouver theater sports, and he knew a lot of people that I would be performing with. And so I'd heard of him. And when we had the first read through for Delicate Art of Parking, he was there, obviously, because he was the lead. And we didn't have, I don't think we had any scenes together, actually, Fred and I. I'm trying to think. But we got to know each other, like at the wrap party, at the read through and everything. And then a director that we had mutually worked with doing a short film asked if I would come and do a part on this film, and Fred was on it. And so we hadn't seen each other since the premiere of Delicate Art of Parking. And it was kind of funny because we were just sitting there in between takes, and he just said, what are you up to? And I said, not much. I said, I'm on hold for some TV show. I don't know whether I'm going to get it or not, but they've got me on hold. And he said, yeah, me too. And then we just kind of took a beat, and he said, what show are you on hold for? I said, it's called Corner Gas. And he went, I'm on hold for that too. So lo and behold, a few weeks later, we both got it, and he flew out, I think, a few days ahead of me. And when I flew in, I didn't know anybody except him. And he came and met me at the Regina airport. And yeah. And then from then on, and he's my buddy.
Fascinating. Would you mind walking us more specifically through that? I had Brent recount the casting for it, the process that they went through, and then he mentioned that you were infamous for improv, that you were well known for being so funny and so likable, and that you were one of their top choices when they were going in for auditions. Would you mind recounting your own experience getting that offer to come and audition for this opportunity?
Well, when I got my agent at that time called and said, you want to read for this? I think they were looking older, not too old, but a little bit older. And so the casting director had mentioned to the network people and to Brent and David and Virginia, the executive producers, about bringing in Nancy Robertson. And so I came in. I did it. I improv this little tag at the end of it because you want to be careful not to overdo it. It's just something that just kind of fell out naturally at the end of it. And I left. I didn't think anything about it.
What is the tag? Sorry.
It was something about. Obviously it was in the first season, but it wasn't the first episode. I don't think it was. Oh, I was asking if it was, I don't know whether it was the garbage person, the recycling person, or the tech person, or something. I can't remember, but somebody, a regular service person that would come into the gas station. And I said, which one is it? Is it the one with, I think, something with a mole on his neck or something? I don't know. And I don't remember what I said, but it was something about a handsome one. And I don't remember what it was.
It's Rash Wednesday or something like that.
Right? Something like that. And and that was the end of the scene. And we did another scene in the show, but I don't remember what it was. But I know it was just kind of a tag. Yeah. And then I was told that I was being considered, and they would like me to come back in. And do a callback. And I had come in because everybody kind of went in looking really shabby. And they said, these people aren't shabby. They just live in a smaller town. And so they said, just come back, basically clean up a little bit and then come in and reread. And the head of CTV at that time before I had read, he had another actress that had worked on one of their shows in mind, and for Wanda. And she apparently looked very similar to Gabe, who played Lacey. And they said that it's too, and they were, like I think they did for all of us. The executive producers were really, really great about sticking with who they really wanted. And so I came in and read it again and waited about another 10 days, didn't hear a thing. And then I got it. And I think it was basically 10 days later, I'm on a plane to Regina.
What did you think of the character when you first started preparing?
I kind of took it literally at first. I took her to be kind of like, originally I kind of had her as she was smart and more normal than and then I think I kind of started moving her to be, juvenile in a arrogant way. If that makes sense. Making her brains a little obnoxious and juvenile responses to Hank and everybody. And then the thing is too, is when you start a series, the beauty of it, and it's such a privilege, is you grow the actors and the writers grow together, because we see what we're given as, from the writing room, and they see what we're giving, the actors are giving, and then we grow, the characters grow together, and it's really cool. And it's that's the real blessing of a series, because you can help grow and you can help change and everything. Like if it's a film, or if you're just on as a guest star and stuff like that, you've got one shot to to come up with a character. But with a series, you can make the character grow. So yeah, it was just a really good time.
I've spoken to Lauren and I've spoken to Brent, and one of my question was, did you ever see it going the direction it did when you did the first read, when you're flying out to Regina? Did you ever have any clue?
No, none at all. I know that we had a really good first table read through with everybody when everybody got out there and we were all settled into Regina, and we had the big read through. And there was kind of like a little bit of a silence after we read the first script, because normally you read 2 scripts at a time because we're shooting 2 at a time. But after we read the first one, there was kind of like this was fun. Yeah. And everybody was enjoying each other and what they were, the read and what was coming out. So that was really kind of nice. And then I can't remember how many episodes we shot back then. I think it was 10. And we were told by one of the executive producers with the network that you're going to have to get, 500,000 viewers for it to stay. And back then in Canadian television, that was pretty much unheard of. And we're like, whoa, uh-oh. And so we didn't think about it. Right. And then the reviews started coming out. And they were really great. And I know when I thought it might be good was when we saw the promos, and whoever did the promos, and I forget, they looked different back then. They were sharper. The images were sharper. It was it just kind of grabbed your interest, and the twangy background music that went with it. It was like, oh, this looks like a good show. And then when we got the numbers from the first night that it aired, we were like, oh my God. And then the next ones came in, and at that point, I mean, we never sunk below 1 million viewers in the whole 6th season. And in fact, it got even bigger. And that just wasn't happening. We actually were see, I shouldn't have had tea because now I'm hyper on the caffeine. The Big Bang Theory, when it came out, they bumped us behind it because it was a brand new big US show, and the ratings weren't great for the Big Bang Theory originally. So they put us back as a lead-in to the Big Bang Theory. And then, of course, the Big Bang Theory just blew everything up, literally. And their numbers were great. So we were really lucky that we had the audience that we did back then. Really, really lucky. And how they've kind of kept with us, it's just been fantastic. I don't know what that's about, but we'll take it.
There's real loyalty there. Yeah. When did you and Brent start to work together? When did you start to have conversations? When did the spark take place?
Oh, I'm not going to go into too much detail about that. But by the end of the season, and, at that point, you're thinking, well, this will never go. Anyways, we've all been, most things don't go again. And especially if it's a Canadian show, it doesn't, it's hard. And so we just clicked. We like the same things. We like the same humor. like the same films. And it was just the perfect time in our life to meet. And when we wrapped the season 1, we started dating, and I'm here in his garage right now, years later. So
brilliant. And what were the next steps? Were you guys excited going into the future of what things were going to take place? Were you confident in season 2 once season 1 wrapped?
Yeah, I don't remember feeling confident, but I also don't remember feeling nervous about this. I think we were all really excited to get back at it, and so thrilled we got, that we're going back for season 2, with such nice ratings and reviews and everything. And I think, there's always a trepidation because everything gets measured from the first. And so, I think once we wrap season 2, we're like, oh, I hope people enjoy it as much as they did season 1. And there's been growth to different characters because Suzanne Boyce, who's so wonderful, she was one of the heads of CTV, and she called me one time in season 1, and she was looking at some of the dailies, and she said that if there's a season 2, I would like to see more of your character, and I would like to see more of Davis and Karen, the cops. And I thought, well, that would be lovely, but it's a big cast, so we all started to get to grow a little bit. And that was exciting. There was, more to do. And, it just, it was fun, but I think just always being grateful that I didn't really think about not getting picked up when we went into the second season, because it was just all so much gravy that even if it didn't, what a riot we had, We broke some rating records but then we ended up going for 6.
That's such a healthy mindset. And Brent shared the same kind of sentiments that like everything after that was kind of like, just be grateful that you had this opportunity.
Absolutely.
And not setting too much expectations on things. And maybe we get stuck as people in the expectations to where are we going rather than enjoying the ride. Yeah,
that's it, and that's so true. And it was kind of that, because we really were enjoying the ride. And as the seasons went on, you had to kind of, by the time we got to like, say, season 5, it's kind of like, well, season 4 and 5, it was kind of like, well, this is the norm. And that's where you got to be careful, because it's not the norm. It can be taken away at any moment. And so you just, as the longer we were in it, the more we just had to kind of like go, hey, we're really lucky. I wouldn't say lucky. I'm just very grateful. I kind of don't know about luck. I think things happen, that are meant to happen. And but just very grateful because, like I said, there's so many amazingly talented people out there behind and in front of the camera that you're just like, wow, why aren't you a bajillionaire and in everything? So we were fortunate.
Do you think that there was something about all of you having fun in the process, that it wasn't just checking a box, it wasn't just doing a scene? It seemed like there was genuine chemistry there of enjoying the process.
I think so. I mean, in my opinion, I think we all felt that. I think that there was chemistry, and there was something to be said about being planted in Regina together. We lived in the same condo building. We were driven in the same vans to set for the first couple of years. It was like that I think really assisted in it. And also the more popular it got, the more we traveled together, because we were going to, we would be meeting in Toronto for press. We'd be doing things. We went down to New York when the show was nominated for an international Emmy. So we were in New York together, and we've just spent so much time together. And like I said, living in the same condo, we're going out for dinner. We're going out to Hanlon's Pub in Regina when we wrap on a Friday. It's pretty hard not to get to, to feel really, really comfortable around your castmates.
Did you
like
have
a family, and,
Did you have
bark
a
at each other.
favorite like moment as Wanda? Did you have a time where it stood out to you?
Yeah, I think I really liked season 5 for Wanda, and I'm speaking selfishly, like for my character. I felt that I had fun with her all seasons, and we were just blessed with these amazing writers, Brent and his crew and everything. And but 5, I really liked it because she had the Contagious Fortune, the pink eye episode, Buzz Driver, when Oscar is driving the bus and Wanda's getting all wound up on the haywire juice.
Yeah.
And there's another one, I forget, where she's the bartender and she ends up tearing Davis and Karen apart. I just thought that was a really good, a really good season for her. And I have to say, I think shooting I can't pick a favorite. I have a hard time watching myself now, and I don't necessarily watch it when I go by. I spend like maybe a minute on it because I'm so much younger.
My favorite, I think, is Buzz Driver, and for that exact reason, because I think as a young person, like we all have that experience where we've had way too much energy drink, and that was like such an accurate representation of how you feel when you're on it.
Good.
And to see some of the dramatic moments was just kind of pulled everything together.
Oh, yeah. And it was fun because, they had me up on the roof of the gas station and flipping down, below. I was terrified of that. It wasn't that high, but I still wasn't thrilled about it. So I had, I had Roger, I think, one of our crew, holding on to my ankles.
Yeah.
So I didn't fall off when I flipped down there. But it was fun. I liked, there was so much fun. And you sometimes you forget it because, they're long hours. And the weather, it's either really, really hot and so you get kind of, I don't know, you got to have to check yourself every once in a while and go, there's other jobs that you could be doing that aren't so great. And this is really great. So.
Was that at all strange to be brought out to the middle of nowhere to do some of these shots in comparison to being in Vancouver or doing some of the shots?
Yeah, I mean, it was my first location shoot, and it was kind of odd, and because I'm used to the water, being born and raised in Vancouver, that to go out somewhere where there's no water, you can't see it, was a little claustrophobic. And then and I'd never been there before. And I remember saying to somebody, I went, I just know nothing about, Saskatchewan in general. I don't have any connection to it. And then I had to stop and go, yeah, I do. My dad was born in Saskatchewan, in Saskatoon, and then brought when he was a young boy into Vancouver. And my dad and mom and older sister, I had to go out before I was born because dad got a job just outside in Regina. And my brother was born in Regina before I was born. So I realized, so all the men in my life are from Saskatchewan. My brother, my dad, my husband.
Was there a standout moment with the live show? It's Stephen Harper, like the morning news one. Was there a standout moment to you of the whole show that was somewhat unique?
Well, it was unique having Stephen Harper and Paul Martin. And Paul, I wasn't on set with Paul Martin, but I met him later that evening, and he was lovely. And but when we were shooting the one with Stephen Harper, we're pulling up into this little dirt triangle that was the corner gas set. Like it literally is in the middle of nowhere. And it's just this gas station built to shoot in and outside of, but there was black limos all the way down the dirt road, security limos. And that's just bizarre when you're pulling in at 6 a.m. and you're still asleep, and then there's all these limos there. And then standing outside my trailer was a secret security guy, and he wouldn't look at me, and because he has to keep his eye out. So I remember going up to my trailer. I said, "Oh, excuse me, but I actually have to get in behind you. This is my trailer." And he said, "All right." And then I just leaned into him and I went, "What are you looking at?" And he said, "Pie shape, ma'am, pie shape." And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "We all take, every Secret Service person takes their vision into a pie shape, and they're responsible for that piece of pie. Right. So if anything happens on their watch in that slice of pie, it's on them." And so I went, "Oh, cool." So I went in and I got into my wardrobe and I was getting out of my trailer, and I was just standing outside talking to somebody, I don't know who, and I was on my way to hair and makeup, and I hear this big tap on my back, and I turn around, and it's this big hand coming at me going, "Stephen Harper." And I went, "Oh, hello." And I see these piercing wolf-like eyes. And so that was my introduction to Stephen Harper.
And was that your favorite one? Or like Brent mentioned, the Tragically Hip performing for you guys almost privately?
Oh, that's my favorite. And I think it was, I mean, we had everybody, he probably told you that everybody that wasn't working that day just happened to turn up first thing in the morning. So we shot part of that in the studio in Regina, and then we had to go out and drive to Rollo to do the exterior where we're coming into the garage.
Right.
And to do the turnaround. And while we're all hanging out in the studio waiting for things to get going, they're just playing. They're just playing their guitars, singing, just doing what they do, I guess, to make themselves comfortable. And they were all so great and so funny. And when we were separated into two vans, of course, the Tragically Hip gone to one van, and then Brent and I think it was just maybe Fred and I in the van heading out to where we're doing the next shot for the exteriors with them. And I just started talking to them on the radio back and forth from one van to the other, and pretending that they couldn't hear me, and just saying things, "Oh my God, they're dreaming." All this stuff. So they're laughing. And so they were great. They were wonderful. It was just so surreal, because I had their CDs when CDs were the thing. I also had the CDs of the odds, like Craig Norley, he does all the music. So it was just so cool to meet these people and work with them. If I, who'd have thought when I was listening to their CDs in my beatbox and, that I'd be working with them.
Was it hard for season 6 to come and for that chapter to come to a close?
Harder than I thought it was going to be. Yeah. I think in some ways it was time. I think, it was a long time for a lot of people that had families that were away, because, we were gone 4.5 months at least. And I mean, as the series went on, we got lots of flights home for the weekends or whenever we had days off during the shoot. We would, a lot of us would fly home, but a lot of the people can't. Like a lot of the writers couldn't fly home. Brent could never fly home. It was, I think it was the right time. I mean, there's the financial end of it. You think, oh, well, the more money wouldn't have been such a bad thing, but that's not why you do it. Cause then it just gets if that's what it's all about, then it's the charm and everything goes. So I know it ended when it should have ended, but it still didn't make it any easier when it was happening. And I think but it didn't really hit until we were shooting the very last episode. And we shot it as the very last episode, because sometimes you don't run them in sequence, and we did. And it was, the read-through was pretty tough. The wrap, when you finished your final scene, because all of us were wrapped at a different, depending what scene you're in, we're at a different time. Fred and I were wrapped together. And it was very emotional. But
was it nice to have the movie come back?
Yeah. I mean, I was surprised that was even going to be happening. Like I didn't know what I thought about that. I thought, oh, what's this going to be like? And back then, 5 years seemed like a long, long time. But now when I look back at it, it doesn't seem that it was that far between wrapping the series and the film. But I guess it was timed pretty well. As I, not that I had anything to do with that, but yeah, it was. Yeah, it was great. And it was so weird because we went back to the same places where we used to stay at the condo. And it's like we had never left. And it was bizarre. It was like there wasn't a beat, So that's kind of nice too, that it just all fell in completely naturally. It was being home in a way.
What was the big difference between the live show and the animated show for you?
A big difference. The scripts were different because you could go wider and bigger. Do you know what I mean? So I felt that there was it, which was good because our characters were different than it to a certain degree, a little bit different than they were on the live action. Because here we were animated and we could get away with more things. And it was far less work for us, the actors. I mean, we're so used to working together that we would just go in and record and out we went. So that was a positive and a negative. I missed being physically a part of it. I felt that it was hard not to, we would move our bodies almost like we normally would, if we were doing the live action, but it's different. It's a whole different way of acting. So I found that, I found it more convenient and I enjoyed it. But I did miss the physical part of it, of actually being able to contribute, even though they did copy our mannerisms from the live action. So it was a great new experience. I loved it. We could have done more of those for sure. But that, if I had to say there was one thing that was strange to me, is just not being fully body Wanda.
Yeah, and that chemistry, I guess, would have lacked a little bit more in that regard too, right?
Well, yeah, because we were separated a lot of times, because in the sense that if you weren't in some scenes, you didn't come in at the same time. So it's not as if we're hanging out in the makeup trailer and we're seeing each other on set or anything before we're going on to scenes and stuff like that. And then when the pandemic hit, we were all in different rooms because we couldn't record in the same room. And so we're not beside each other, but our history together made that a lot easier. We're thankful for that because we knew the beats and the timing of all the other characters and everything. And it's, and we didn't have Janet. So that was different too, because we'd lost Janet and, but Corinne came in and she was amazing. But so those were different things, it was, but it was fun to do. And we had great actors that do animation, I think, for the most part. And they're so skilled. And they were great. Who played the townspeople? They were amazing.
Lorne had talked about how one of his experiences from like the impact of the show that he got to see was that he had spoken to some veterans who were over in Afghanistan that were getting rocket attacked. And they had come to him and said, we were watching Corner Gas during a time where we were scared for our lives and we were just bunkered down. Brent had talked about how he heard a lot that it was a generational show where different people could watch it. They could watch it with their kids. Yeah. What were your big takeaways from hearing from the public? What was the response you got in terms of the impact of Corner Gas?
Just kindness, just genuine kindness. Like it's not, sometimes if you do something and somebody comes up and goes, oh, I saw you in this, good job, or something like that. And it's just kind of like, it's nice, but it's not, it's just a nice comment. But the ones with Corner Gas, it was basically, I think when they would see us, I think we felt a bit like home to them because they always said that they watched it with their family because they could. And we had every demographic. I mean, you can't get those numbers without having every demographic watching. And yeah, it was just a kindness and a warmness. I was never anything negative or sarcastic. It was just, you just felt really lucky to be a part of something that is part of these people's lives that brought them, and still to this day brings them comfort and joy and everything. Like, how fortunate are we to be in something like that? Because we weren't nice to each other. The characters weren't nice to each other. It wasn't as if this was as sweet as I think people think it is. It's just that the characters, because they're all they had, it would basically, nobody else can make fun of you, but we can. We weren't a sucky group of people. Like, do you know what I mean? We weren't. It was just, I think, a nice story about people knowing each other too well in a small town existing. Yeah. And nothing more than that.
I think one of my favorite parts about the show is it reminds you to find beauty in the small moments, that small things are really the big things. When we talk about wanting to go on a vacation to Mexico, that's a week of your year, or maybe 2 weeks of your year. But the reality is you want to find beauty in the 365 days, and you want to find fun and joy and humor and connection, and you want to be able to joke around with people and not take things too seriously and not get offended by things and just have fun around each other.
Yeah. And that's a safety. If you're around people that you're safe with, like these characters were safe, because where were they going to go? And they found safety in knowing each other characters so well that nothing really shocked them and there was no damage done. Because like I said, they're in this small town. Where are they going to go? It's if you disliked everybody, then you wouldn't go out. Yeah. So, yeah, and I think there was just comfort in that, in over familiarity, and we all have it. We all have it in our families. We have it no matter where we live. You're where you work, and yeah, I think it was a nice little slice of life, and nothing disastrous happened. It was big problems made out of little things.
One of my favorite things about how you portrayed the character, and I think your genuine energy, is that you can be serious, you can be intelligent, but you don't have to be boring. And as somebody who's gone to law school, who's gotten the degrees, I find that people who go to law school want to come across intelligent so much so that I think they sacrifice parts of their personality in order to be perceived as the professional person. And I never want to become that. I always want to do my best to be intelligent or think things through, but to be fun and lighthearted. But still to be lighthearted and not to take myself too seriously. Yeah. And I found that Wanda and how you portray yourself is so thoughtful to that. You can be smart, you can think things through, but you can also be fun and silly, and that doesn't take away from who you are. It actually enriches who you are.
Well, that's lovely to say. Yeah, I wanted her to have a weakness, and in not having power with her, that her power, her intelligence, or the intelligence that she thought she had, wasn't the power she thinks it is. And you could always get her, like Hank could always get her, and I think, I'm not sure. I think the first time Wanda jumps over the counter, I'm not so sure, but I think that was improvised and chased him out of the gas station.
Right.
And because he just gets to her, and like a sibling. And so we were given opportunity to do things, and it's your job. It's a smart thing to do, we helped mold what they were by dropping little things in. And then the writers were so great, then they'd pop a little bit more onto it, and then you take it. And it's such a great collaboration. So I like playing Wanda.
We have to get down to the crux of the issue, though. You're one of the only people I know who can cut somebody's hair and blow up so much on YouTube. Would you mind telling me about cutting Brent's hair and how viral that video went for whatever reason?
I didn't want to do it. I said, no, I'm not. First of all, A, I'm not cutting your hair. And B, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do this. But he talked me into it, and I didn't know it was that popular, to tell you the truth. So that's interesting. But I
you didn't know that?
No.
I think it's got like over 20,000 views at least. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. No, I don't. But it was fun, and I did cut his hair, and I didn't do a good job. But I told him that was probably what's going to happen. But it was such a weird time with COVID, wasn't it? I mean, it's like it was, maybe one of the reasons I did it, that we did it is just some way to be creative and perform when we can't, so it was such a weird time. I don't know if we've ever still fully recovered from it. Well, it's still going on, but yeah, weird.
Have you thought about what next steps you want for your career? I do find that you and Brent watching that video is so funny that you guys still have a dynamic. Do you have any plans in the future?
No. I mean, not at this point. No, I think, we both like to do separate things. And because that's kind of what we do, so, but I mean, who knows? I mean, there's certainly nothing in the plans right now, but I mean, never say never. I don't know. I don't know what my next gig is at any point in time, so, which is maybe it's good and bad. It's always feast or famine.
Do you have any advice for young creators on how to get their message out and how to stay authentic in a time where I do see so many people trying to figure out how to fit into niches and into other people's boxes, how to stay authentic and continue to share their gifts?
You mean in the industry or just in life?
Just in life.
Just in life. Well, I don't know, you see, because it's hard to say that, because I think it also depends on what age you're at. I think at certain ages when you're younger, I mean, that's part of the thing is wanting to fit in. But when you get older, you look back at it and you go, well, that's not necessarily the coolest place to be. Like being who you are is the best you can be. And because who you are is great. And I think when you try really hard to be something else that you're not happy. And I think sometimes maybe that brings out behavior in people that stops them from going forward and stops them from finding their people. But you don't know until you get older. And, that's a good thing. Well, there's lots of good things about getting older, but I mean, who you are, there's only one of you. There's only one of you. So just by that math, you're incredible and you're unique. And, yes, you pick up things just by your environment, but I think you're also born a certain way. And there's all these things, there's these chemicals, there's these genes, these experiences, everything that everybody goes through is solely their own. So you're all you got. Have some fun with yourself. That doesn't sound right, but you know what I mean. Just enjoy yourself as you are. And I know that that's hard because it's hard. I mean, we're all tough on ourselves, but if you can step back and look at it, I think, yeah, you're great just as you are because you're you and nobody is like you.
That is an apt observation.
I don't know about that, but thank you.
That was really well said. Nancy, I want to thank you for doing this. I watched Corner Gas as a kid. I used to use it to go to sleep at night. I would have it on into the background. And so I am a student of the work that you all put into that show. I am so grateful for all of the insights you shared. And again, for me, I always look at that show and go, it's okay to be silly. It's okay to be serious, but it's okay to be fun and easygoing and make a joke of yourself at times. You don't have to take yourself too seriously. You're not defined by the silliest thing you did. You're not defined by the most professional thing you did. You're a dynamic person, and you're going to have different vibes and different moments, and you should share all of yourself with the world because that's what's going to lift others up to allow them to do the same. And I think Corner Gas is a reflection of that. So thank you for being willing to do this interview and share your journey.
Well, it's such an honor to have you, to have been a part of your life. And that's so wonderful. And look how wonderful you turned out. See?
I don't know about all that.
Yeah, no. And so I'm honored to be a part of your podcast. This is so great. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Tim, how did we do?
Fabulous. I'm just listening and smiling ear to ear. It's been great.
Well, thank you so much. And I'm so sorry about the other day. I am the worst. My agent just gets I frustrate him to no end. I frustrate all my friends from no end because I am so forgetful. I'm just, and I apologize so much. So I'm so sorry about that.
You were very much worth the wait. This was a fantastic interview. And as I said, you bring such an authentic energy to the conversation that it feels, breezy. It feels easygoing. Sometimes people are really serious when they're on the other side of the camera. And this was just so much fun.
Oh, good. I enjoyed myself too.